This video details the list of parameters that you need to prepare prior to be able to upload budget through journals. So if your choice was to follow option one, which is link budget via journals, then this video will give you details about what parameters you need to have in place prior to do that. So let's start from a known fact that when you enter a journal and you do validation and posting, that journal will then update and hit segments and update balances. But let's go further in details to understand how this happens exactly. So when I book a journal, as you see on the left side, and when I do the posting process will update the segment using a parameter we call journal transaction codes. So the journal transaction code is what will link one journal to one segment, and that's the key factor that will allow the update from a journal to a segment. This means you will need to have a list of segments to define. You will also have a list of journal transactions to define, and then finally you will need to have a list of journals to define. So you will need three main parameters: segments, journal transaction codes, and journals. The first question you need to ask yourself is, what is my budget design? What do I want to accomplish? Do I want OPEX budget and CAPEX budget? How many revision I want? How many forecast I want? And uh, do I want to have prior year segments as well to keep that in history? Or do I want next year, two next year, three next year? So it depends of the design of your budget you intend to have in the system. When you answer this question, you will be able to come up with a list of segments and a list of transaction codes and list of journals. So we are going now to explain how to define a segment, how to define a journal transaction, and how to define a journal. So in the example you see here, I am going with a very simple setup. And this setup, I will have an OPEX original budget segment, one revision, two, three, four revision in 1 year because these are current year. I will have a final budget segment. This will be dedicated to the final budget of the year. And then I will have one forecast budget segment. So this is just an example. Follow this process to come up with the full design or the full set of segments you need. Okay, so the intention or my intention here is to load the budget first in original budget. I could also load the forecast for next year here, and then whenever needed, because I will need for revision. So when I book my original budget and post the journal, it goes and updates original segment and updates the final segment as well. I will do double or let's say two set of update. Now, after that, in revision one, I will just add the revision. I'm not loading the entire revised budget. I will just load the revision in a journal called revision one. So when I load the revision and do the posting, it goes and update the final as well. When I book revision 2, it goes and update the final also. 3, same thing, and 4, same thing. So at all time, I have my final budget being updated and being the sum of original plus all the revisions. When I will build up my reporting, I have the choice. I can base my analysis on the final budget. I can base my analysis on original or revision 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is one way of setting up the segments. There are multiple other ways to set up segments, but I think this one is the most common one, or the one that will allow you to always have your final budget being updated. Now, based on the segment list, I will create the journal transaction list, which will be the same thing. Um, so I will need original, revision 1, 2, 3, 4, final, and forecast, and then define my list of journals. So what you see here in the Excel sheet are the templates that consultants are using to load parameters directly to the SQL Server. However, from your side, you can get assistance from a consultant to do the upload for you, or to create a segment in General Ledger, you go to segment definition. You make sure no one is doing a posting or is maintaining the segment definition, and then you create the segment. If you are unsure about how to create a segment, reach out to us or see the video on how to create a segment. So you create all the adequate, all the needed segments. You create all the needed journal transactions, as you can see here, and then you create all the journals needed, as you see here as well. Okay. Most important that this journal has to be manual, and you uncheck the balance required because a budget segment is not balancing. So you uncheck balance required, and then once you create all the journals, now you are able to load the budget. So have a look at the next video where I will explain how to load the budget, as you will have two ways. You can load the budget from link spreadsheet, or you can load the budget from the batch entry screen you see here.